What's up, everybody? I'm Eric Harrison and welcome to the Death Twitch. Today we're going to talk about The Blob from 1988, based on the 1958 movie of the same name, directed by Chuck Russell and written by Chuck Russell and Frank Darabont, who had previously worked together on movies such as Hell Night and Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. Alright, so the movie opens with shots of what appears to be a vacated ghost town, and it kind of gets your thoughts running like maybe the Blob already ate everybody, but it turns out it's just a little misdirect, and we'll come to find out that this movie is very much about subverting your expectations of what a person might think that they would get out of a Blob movie 30 years after the original. Alright, so immediately we're introduced to all of our characters that are going to play a part in this story. We got the cheerleader, the jock, the rebel, and even the homeless man that is going to be the one that kind of brings the Blob into town later on. And so they introduce the jock football guy like he's going to be the main guy. He's going to be our hero, right? But, well, he wishes he was the hero of this movie. Of course not. It's got to be the guy with the leather jacket and the bad weave. He's got some kind of weird thing going on there with his hair. Before we even jump into any more of this, let me just go ahead and point out how weird I think that this is. Apparently, the director of the movie, Chuck Russell, insisted that both of his leads have hair extensions, and they both look real weird with them. I don't know what prompted that. I don't know what he was going for. Chuck, if you're seeing this, please drop us some hints and let us know why the hell why did the hero rebel guy need a mullet? Because it was 80's, I suppose. So again, we've got setups, we've got subversion, we've got the jump setup. Oh, he didn't make the jump this time, you know. The rebel being a badass with his dirt bike or his motorcycle thinks he's going to go and jump the thing. He didn't make it, whatever. We've got the setup with the bomb. We've got the setup of the sheriff and Fran, who works at the diner. Ooh, could this be a nice little romance between these two characters that definitely won't get killed halfway through the movie? I will have to wait and see. So our rebel character, what's his name? Frag? What a strange name. But anyway, after laying down his bike, he takes it to the local mechanic, who apparently seems to be good friends with, to get a wrench set. Again, another setup. This is things I like about movies. Movies do that right when they set things up and then pay them off. That's just so satisfying, like to see things set up and then to see them pay off. So good job, Frank Darabont and Chuck Russell. And also we get our exposition about the snow. I'm kind of confused about where this is supposed to take place. Maybe I missed a title card where it said, but my research keeps telling me it's supposed to take place in California, or it's supposed to take place in Colorado. Colorado sounds right because they get snow there. California, I don't think it gets enough snow that you would want to set like a movie like this where like cold and snow is going to be a kind of a big part of the climax of the movie, right? So I don't know, maybe I just don't know California that well. Definitely looks like Cali. Alright, so we got a really funny scene here with the two football player jocks that are going to some pharmacy. One of them needs condoms. Okay, so this guy that needs condoms, let's talk about him for a second. He's a sleazeball, as we'll find out. But I just want to know, like, how the hell does he have all of this stuff in his trunk, and the guy don't got condoms? He doesn't even have $5 for condoms. But it's a very funny scene, though, when he goes to buy the condoms at the pharmacy. And then we also are introduced to the preacher, who will come in to play a later part of the movie. This preacher is played by, sorry if I don't pronounce this correctly, Del Close. Anyway, he actually had a small part in the Blob sequel. What was it called? The Son of the Blob or something like that, from the 70s, I believe. Which he played I believe he played a homeless man with a patch over his eye. And then in the end of this movie, he winds up having an eye blinded. So I guess that was maybe a little homage, which is a cool one too, because it's the same actor from that movie and in this one. He got to be in two Blob movies. That's pretty cool. Back to the condom scene. I love this, where the guy, the sleazeball, goes up to buy condoms, and then he says, "No, it's not for me. It's for my friend. He's an animal," or whatever. And he gets the ribbed condoms. Whatever. Ribbed? Yeah, ribbed. That's a weird thing.
Rib for her pleasure. Ew.
So that pays off later on when the good football jock. I don't use names, by the way. I just call everyone these weird stuff. Just so you know. He goes to pick up his date, which is the cheerleader, the lead of the movie. And then we get that funny-ass scene where he's going up to meet the dad, which is already a terrifying thing to ever have to do. But then to have this dad think that you're the sleazeball.
Ribbed.
So you have to have the scene with the meteor hit, and then, of course, the homeless man goes to check it out. And then he sticks like a branch into what he finds is like some kind of meteorite, right? And it's kind of broken open. He sticks a stick in there, and he pulls out what looks to be a big fucking thing of snot, which is real gross. Like, why would you even mess with that? It looks like there's snot in there. Let me take it out. That's gross. But then it goes and starts consuming his hand, which is like very similar to what happens in the original The Blob. So Cheerleader and Jock are driving along to go on their date, and they run into the bum with the blob on his hand, and also our Rebel character is there. And of course we've got conflict between Jock and Rebel, as it should be, right? So anyway, they take this homeless man with snot on his hand to the worst hospital I've ever seen, where everybody in this place is super rude.
Now, how may I help you?
So when they get him there, Rebel splits, and then Cheerleader and Jock stay to fill out paperwork and hang out. The Jock gets up at some point to go and get some drinks, some beverages, and then he hears something, I suppose, and he goes to check out the homeless man, and there's something is not right. So he goes and get another rude doctor. And when the doctor goes in and he pulls the sheet off, and half of the man has just been dissolved and eaten, and this is great. See, now we're really getting into it with this movie. It's pretty horrifying, and the effects and the idea that the blob is acidic and it can just kind of dissolve you, and it grows when it eats you, is awesome. And then it's like intelligent somehow, even though it's just a blob. Why does it kill though? Is it killing to eat? Is it instinct? We don't really ever know, and that's fine. I'm totally fine with not getting those answers. Like, that's what's great about a movie like this, where you can fill in the blanks yourself, you can theorize yourself. Nobody ever really knows what the blob, like why the blob does what it does, except I guess we do get a plot twist later on, what I'll talk about when we get to it. And that might explain why the blob does what it does, but I still like to theorize. Why does it kill? Does it get full? You know, whatever. So our hero, the person that you thought was going to be our hero, well, he gets eaten by the blob. Now, I want to get to something here where I need to ask maybe for clarification. Perhaps I'm not understanding this. The blob was just at the hospital, right? But now the blob is at makeout point with the sleazeball and some girl he's trying to rape. And they even show, like, the girl asks, hey, what's going on down there in town? And they show this long shot of, you can see emergency lights flashing way down in town. So that's where the blob came from, and it went all the way up to makeout point just to kill those two people, and then it dumps into a sewer and goes back. Now, is this a plot hole, or is just the blob able to, separate itself and be more than one entity, more than one blob? That makes a lot of sense, but it's never actually explained in the movie. Again, unless I missed something, I don't remember that being explained. So I find this part to be a little weird. I'm going to go ahead and assume that there was another part of the blob still in the woods, and then there was the part of the blob that was in the hospital. So the blob in the woods ate the sleazeball and the girl, and then went into the sewer, ultimately joining up with the blob in town. That's my assumption. The movie doesn't really tell you, unless I missed something here. So after the hero football guy gets consumed by the blob, naturally our rebel character, Brian Frag, I think is his name. Again, it's a weird name to try to say. He's the suspect, of course, because he's the bad guy of town. Everyone knows, like, he's trouble, right? He's trouble. Even the sheriff knows. So he's the suspect. He's taken back. He's questioned. We've got the deputy in this movie, who is a hard ass and hates teenagers. That, again, is another thing taken very from the original movie, The Blob, in which the deputy he spends the whole movie saying, you can't trust teenagers, they're full of shit, they lie, and he just hates them. We got the same thing going on here. By the way, I'm pretty sure this guy was in RoboCop. But they got nothing to hold him on, so they have to let good old Rebel go. He goes to the diner where Fran works because I guess they're close. They seem to have some kind of a relationship, sort of like maybe a maternal thing between her and him. And then Cheerleader shows up, and I kind of like this, that she goes to Frag because she knows he's the rebel, he's trouble. If anybody can maybe help her, it could be him. So that's pretty cool that she decides like she's going to go to him for help. But anyway, they're in the diner. She's talking to him. He's not really taking her seriously because he didn't see all the shit that went down at the hospital like she saw. And then we've got a pattern where she keeps like guilt tripping him. As soon as she doesn't get what she wants or whatever, she's like, "Oh, I thought you were different."
You're just the same.
What are you talking about?
You act like you're different. You put on this big show. But you're just like everybody else in this town. You're full of shit, Flag!
You're just like everyone else. So she has to guilt trip him into helping her, and she does this again later in the movie. I guess that's her thing. Whatever. So anyway, we get to this great scene coming up here where, they're trying to close down the diner or whatever, and we've got, looks to be the dishwasher / cook or whatever, who's trying to unclog a sink. Well, little does he know what it is actually clogged with. This is a great scene, as unrealistic as it may be. The fact that the Blob shoots up out of the sink, grabs his face, and pulls him head first down the drain is amazing. I love this shit. It's great to see, and it's like it just reminds you of like how inventive and fun kills were in the 80s horror movies. Good stuff. And Fran walks in, sees this shit, loses her shit, and then next thing you know, it's on. The Blob is after everybody. Fran finds her way outside into the alley while Rebel and Cheerleader run from the Blob through the diner into the freezer, because why not, right? Why wouldn't you go in there? I mean, you got to go somewhere, and that's when they discover, well, I don't know if they fully, they don't know, but the Blob tries to get in there, and you know what? It's like, nah, fuck this, I'm out. I'm going to go kill Fran instead. So I love this part because she runs and finds a payphone. Remember those? Gets in the payphone, is trying to call the cops, and she calls and she's like, "Give me the sheriff," who, there was supposed to be some kind of developing love story there between those two, which I was all looking forward to seeing. They both look like nice people. They probably would have been good for each other. But again, subversion is the name of the game here. So she's like, "Get me the sheriff." And then the dispatcher's like, "No, the sheriff already went down to the diner." And then, of course, boom, that's when his face appears. He's all dead. He died off screen. We didn't even get to see this motherfucker die or how he died. It's like, fuck it. You thought all these people were important? Nope. And then Fran gets it. Alright, so after their encounter with the Blob, they finally come out of the freezer and take off out of the diner. Then the preacher, who happens to be just walking through town by himself late at night, he sees the Blob descend down into the sewer, and he decides to go and check out the diner, which is a wreck. So he goes in there, and when he goes into the freezer, there's frozen parts of Blob on the ground. And he picks those off and puts them in a container to keep them. This will come into play for the twist of the movie, the big twist. So after escaping the diner alive, Rebel and Cheerleader go to the sheriff's office to try and find the sheriff. And then, she says, whatever, we don't know where anybody's at. The deputy was out in the woods. So they go to the woods, right, to try and find, they're trying to find help, whatever. They go out to the woods, and that's when they encounter what is my least favorite trope about any movie is evil government agency bullshit. I could totally do without any of this being in the movie. I wish it wasn't. I wish this was just set in the town, and it was just between the townspeople and the Blob. I wish the Blob went around eating peeps left and right, and maybe at the end they have to pull and band together as a community to fight this creature. But no, naturally, unfortunately, we have to get evil government agency trope, and I just don't like it. Can do without it, but there it is. It's in there. So they encounter those people, and at first they, of course, naturally, being the evil government trope, they come off like, oh, we're the good guy. We're the good guys. We're going to help you. We're going to help everything and blah, blah, blah. No, of course not. But anyway, they stick Rebel and Cheerleader into a van to take them off somewhere. I don't know, whatever. And then Rebel guy's got the good idea of saying, let's get the fuck out of this thing. And she's all, no, I'm staying. I trust these evil government people. And of course, we've got our payoff with the wrench, which is what I love. He had the wrench in his pocket from earlier because he was going to fix his motorcycle that had broke down when he didn't make the jump. And now he just undoes the door and opens it, and he's like, let's go. And she's like, I'm not going to go. And this is where she does her damn guilt trip bullshit again. She's like, go then. You only think about yourself anyway. This girl, she's really, really hot. She could be kind of a bitch. And doesn't she owe him an apology for this? I don't remember hearing her apologize throughout any part of the movie, saying, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I should have jumped out of the van with you like you said. Now, we got to get to the theater scene, of course, because the theater scene in the original Blob is probably one of the most famous things about that movie. And so they did their version, which is very funny because they satirized slashers, which were at the height of slasherdom in the 80s. So of course it was a natural thing to do, is to satirize slashers. It was very funny to see. I actually wish they would show more of the fake movie within the movie because it seems very funny. But anyway, you got your kids in there seeing a movie that they're too young to see, but it's fine. It was the 80s. And then next thing you know, the projectionist is like hella hot. There's something blocking the air. He goes to check it out and he gets blobbed. And then it starts taking people up out of the audience and everybody freaks out. It's chaos. It's just absolute chaos. People trampling on people, the Blob just grabbing people, eating people. It's great stuff, man. So when brought back to town, she immediately goes to the theater to find, I guess, what is her little brother? She goes to help the children while everyone's getting eaten in the theater. And they manage to make it into the sewer system to try and escape, which is not the greatest idea considering the Blob has been very intelligently using the sewer system to get around town without being seen too much, you know. And then this is the part where our Rebel guy goes back to get his motorcycle and then happens to hear the evil government agency people talking about how evil they are and how everyone's expendable and how the Blob is not just some creature from space. It was created as a biochemical weapon or some shit. Of course, blah, 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 evil people. I hate that crap. Anyway, we get our jump payoff because he couldn't make it at the beginning of the movie, but damn it, this time when people are shooting at him and he's being chased by government agents, motherfucker makes that jump. So while Cheerleader and kids are wading through the sewer system, our hero, for some reason, rides his motorcycle into the sewer system. And then the Blob starts attacking everybody, killing one of the kids that you thought was totally safe, because they don't kill kids in horror movies back then. But no, fuck whatever you thought. This is the Blob, goddammit. This fucking thing breaks all the rules. So the weird government agents show up with guns and they shoot at the Blob, because that's going to work. I mean, they created the thing. Wouldn't they know that you can't just shoot it with some bullets? Pretty much takes them out. One kid died. The other one gets to safety, but she's not able to get out of the sewer. So she has to be saved by a Rebel guy again. And again, she never says thank you. She doesn't apologize for being a bitch earlier. Whatever. She's hot. She can get away with it. So Rebel shows up with his motorcycle, and she jumps on back, and they're riding away from the Blob and all that. But then eventually they crash. Now, this is something I want to point out before I go any further real quick is another little thing I don't really like about the movie because, trust me, I really, really like this movie. There's just a few details I'm not into, and one of them is how it becomes an action movie in the last 25 minutes or so. I don't know, I do like that horror can embody every other genre of movie, but I wanted this to remain more pure horror instead of becoming an action movie. That's just my own personal preference. since we do got these government agencies there, government agents, one of them happens to be Bill Moseley, and he's got a bazooka. Well, that's convenient. So they get trapped down in the sewer because, of course, evil government guy is not going to let them up because that's the trope. So they use the bazooka to blow the shit out of that fucking manhole. And then, of course, we get our climax in the town square. Now, I do like this definitely about the movie, how the climax takes place in a town square. And it's pretty much a battle between the government agents, or what's left of them. You got the town folk. You've got the hero, the female lead. Everyone's, taking this thing on. And I like how it all climaxes right there in the middle of town. So the deputy shows up, and he's, like, trying to figure out what's going on. We got evil government agency there being evil. You go, our main evil guy gets pulled down into the sewer. I love it. That's what he gets for creating the Blob, you motherfucker. And so to retaliate, we've got all these government guys with their machine guns. They go and start shooting into the sewer to shoot at the Blob, because that totally worked before, right? And all it really does is piss it off until the thing fucking bursts out of the street and starts putting the smack down. Preacher Man happens to catch on fire, and, thank God there was just happened to be a fire extinguisher sitting right there so that Cheerleader could put him out. I believe her name in the movie is Meg. I just keep calling everybody by Cheerleader and Jock and stuff. You get the idea. Anyway, good thing that fucking fire extinguisher was there to put him out. And that's when she discovers and finally puts it all together that the Blob doesn't like the cold, because the cold can freeze the Blob. Anyway, they all pile into some building, I think it's a church, and they're all piled in there, and she figured it out. So everyone starts grabbing fire extinguishers to battle the Blob. Isn't that funny? Like grenades, AKs, none of that shit works, but a fire extinguisher. It's just hilarious. Brian figures that out and goes into what was set up earlier, again, the mechanic shop, where he's got the snow machine truck or whatever that thing is. So that's cool. Another little setup where it's a snow town, and when they don't always have snow, they got a snow machine there. So cool. We got us a way to freeze the Blob. He goes after it, and the Blob flips the truck. Cheerleader sees that shit, and she's like, that's my man now. I'm going to go and save his ass. She sets the bomb in place, and then she's going to jump off, but she gets her fucking foot caught, and she's hanging there all shitty, right? And so Brian, he's stuck in the truck, but he manages to get his way out. He gets her unhooked, and they run away. That shit explodes because apparently it's just full of liquid nitrogen, so it explodes, and wouldn't you know it, this place that needs snow, that thrives on snow, their economy and everything thrives on snow, and they're like, we're probably not going to get any. Well, wouldn't you know it, snow saves the day, freezes the Blob. That's writing, motherfucker. I love it. Set up, payoff, boom. So the thing explodes, sends snow everywhere, freezes the Blob, and then everyone's all happy. It's like, yay, happy ending. That's cool, great. And they're like, we got to put this thing on ice or whatever. And then this is where we get to what I think is just one of my little nitpicks, is I'm not into the twist ending with the preacher. So we've got our twist ending. The preacher, some years later or whatever, he's all half blind, half burnt. He's preaching hellfire and brimstone. And then they show a scene, a shot with him holding the Blob in a little container. And it's like, when God tells me it's time, I'm going to unleash this. But that's just a tiny little fucking thing he's got. What happened to all that rest of the Blob? What did they do with all that Blob? What the fuck did they do with all that Blob? Why should I care that this one guy has a tiny little piece? Somewhere there's like a whole fucking pile of Blob. So I just don't get it. This twist just doesn't really do it for me, but I see what they're going for, and overall the movie is still too damn awesome to let that bring the whole thing down. Alright, let's just talk about a few things here before we wrap her up and give this sucker a rating. Blob versus the Thing. There's a movie I want to see. Make it happen, motherfuckers. Also, I like the Blob. I like the original. I like this one a lot, and it's a movie, and it's a creature that has really stood the test of time. And for a franchise that has only had like 3 Blob movies, it's amazing how much people still care about it and still love it. And like, there's, you know, where the original Blob was filmed, they have like a Blobathon or some shit every year. So this is really a still very celebrated movie and creature. So I'm definitely down for more Blob movies. In fact, I've heard that they're doing a Blob remake. Okay. They never learn, do they? So yeah, I just want to reiterate how badass these effects are, especially with what we just seen, that now they're going to use CGI, because that's totally necessary, right? It's not like we didn't just see this whole fucking movie made in 1988 with practical effects that looks great. No, better CGI it up. These fucking effects are amazing. I love them. I love the way they brought this blob to life, and they gave it more agility and more abilities, and it, you know, the way it looks and moves. Everything is so great about this creature and about this movie. Let's wrap this mother up. Let's see. It's the Blob. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5. Because like I said, I don't know, I'm not into the action. It turns into an action movie. No, not my thing. I don't like the government people, so it's not a full 5. But it's still damn good. 4 out of 5. If you've never seen it, check it out. If you have seen it, watch it again.